So the another new addition to the Selenium 4 API is, are the relative locators. So if you go to this download tab and here look at the change log. So in the latest release, they have added this relative locators functionality where we can find an element uniquely with all different ways, as in using with tag name method and telling that the element is above a particular element or below a particular element or to right of or to left of or near to a particular element. So there are a lot of things being added around this relative locator, which we're going to talk about in this lecture. So before that, we're going to see like what sort of help that relative locator will gonna do when we struggle in finding element uniquely on a web page. As in, if I talk about one of the element on my website, if you go to qa.way2automation.com, so this is a dummy registration form where one of the tests is to fill up these details and click on the submit button. So what I'll do when I try to enter some values in this email field, let's say I'll inspect this and I got this name email. So what I'm gonna do, I'll create a new class and say test relative locators. So I'm gonna take the initial code from this class, paste it here, and change the website URL first. So now this section is not a separate window or a frame. I should be able to type directly over here by getting the name of this particular element, that is email, and I'll say driver dot find element by dot name is dot send keys, and I'll enter my email ID. And let's say after entering the email ID, I want to click on this submit button. So I'll inspect this element and I can take the XPath of this element as well. So I'm gonna say driver dot find element by dot XPath this dot click. And if I run this, so it should navigate to the website and let's see whether it should type and click on that element or not. So it did type the email, but it didn't click on the submit button. So let's see the reason why it didn't click. We got an exception, and the exception says element not interactable exception. So why this exception is there? I mean, why the element, our Selenium script is not able to interact with this element, right? If we look at the other properties of this element, the other attributes, we have got a class as button, right? We can form up a XPath if we don't want to use the XPath that we got it by the console. We can even create our own XPath and try using it. So if we try doing that in the console window, if I write $x for XPath, and within this I'm gonna say \input at type equal to submit. So you can see I'm getting two matching nodes. So I can try concatenating any other attribute. Class equal to button, again two matching nodes, at value equal to submit with capital S. So again I'm getting two matching nodes. It means there is another element having all same attributes and the tag. So the XPath that we got over here, let me check whether this XPath is unique or not. So if I go over here, so see again I'm getting two matching nodes. Now one of the way is either I should make it unique by concatenating the parent or child attributes or siblings and then make it unique, or I can store it like this, and I'm gonna use indexes to make it unique. So 1 or 2 for the second element, right? So there are 2 elements. So out of that, I can choose the first or second accordingly, right? Or maybe I can say that my submit button is the right hand side of this uh, sign in link, right? So the submit button has got a tag that is input tag, and which is next to the sign in link. So this is where the relative locators will going to help us, right? So the new relative locators, how we're going to use it, in order to click on this submit button, instead of writing this, what I'm going to write, I'll say driver dot find element, and here I'm going to give a relative locator dot with tag name. So relative locators will always gonna start with the tag name. So I want to find the element with the tag name that is input. So I'm gonna give the tag of that element and say dot, and these are a couple of the methods that you're gonna find with the relative locators, that you can find the element above, below, and you can see these are overloaded methods. You can directly use by, or you can give the entire web element inside it. So below, near, to left of, to right of, right, to like n number of locators, relative locators are there. So what I can do, I can try using one of the method over here, which should be right of this sign in link. So I can say to write off, and I'll say by dot link text, and I'll give the exact link sign in over here, and then I'll say dot click. So let's save this and let's run it and see if it works. So it entered, and see, it clicked the submit button, right? So this is how, using the relative locator, I am able to click on this submit button easily. So what I use is to write off. I can even use below this particular element, right? So in order to do that, if I comment this out, I'll just copy this and say with tag name input, and this should be below this password element. So I'm gonna inspect the, let's say I'm gonna take the XPath of this password element. First, let's see the XPath is unique or not. Yeah, it's unique XPath. So I'm gonna copy this, and I'll say dot below by dot XPath, and give this XPath over here. So again, if I run this, this should gonna click on the submit button. Right? Again, it clicked on the submit button, right? So there are a couple of methods that you can use, and also like I have seen like in like Simon Stewart's blog itself, who is the creator of WebDriver, that he recommends that don't use it directly. Do a static import, basically. Static import, as in you can add this import as in a form of a static, so that dot with tag name, so that instead of writing relative locator class again and again, you can simply call its method directly, so with tag name, right? And if you want to explore this API, you can simply press Control, take a mouse over here, click on this, and you should be able to see the coding part, the implementation of this relative locator class. So this is a relative locator class, and it has got a static method that is with tag name, which we were calling it like relative locator dot with tag name, right? And in this tag name, this is like we are giving the tag name over here, like the input tag. Again, this method is returning us the object of relative by class. So if you go down over here, you're gonna see this relative by class, and in this relative by class, you're gonna find all those methods that you can call, like with tag name dot above a particular element, dot below a particular element. See, below web element or below by, these are overloaded methods, right? To left of, to right of, right? So you can try exploring this API. This is what the relative locators that is actually mentioned over here in the Selenium 4.0 Alpha 3 release, right? So this will make our life very easy when we are actually locating complex elements where we have to form up like dynamic XPath or dynamic CSS by concatenating child, concatenating at like siblings, right? At times the XPath looks quite huge or quite complex. So instead of doing that, we can ask our element like clicking on the element to be next of this particular element, or to the right of this particular element, or to the above of this element, right? So same thing will going to work for like multiple elements as well. If in case like you inspect this main element and you want to find how many elements are inside it, how many input tags are inside it, so same concept you're going to use with find elements as well, right? So this is what the functionality of the relative locator in Selenium 4.